Hello, it's Sean Bishop. I'm Director of Bishop Instruments and Bows, and this is my sort of ramble on what's new in May. So I'm going to be showing you stuff that I've bought in May. It's been an incredibly busy month. I've sold quite a lot of stuff, so I've bought lots of stuff, and these articles, I'm lucky enough to own them myself. And they're currently available in the shop. If you look on my website soonish, they're all going on the website, but we've just got a bit of a backlog of pictures we need to put in. It's early June now, and we are just, first of all, I'm gonna have my coffee because I just got into work. We are doing the auctions in London, and I thought I could just ramble because very few people will watch this. So I thought I'd just say stuff and you can listen to it and I can let you into a bit of my life. So it's the auction season in London. We have the auction houses, Ingalls and Hayday, Brompton's, Torrizio have been around, Amati. So and every violin dealer known to man turns up. So for this past week, it's been pretty hectic. I myself haven't bought anything at auction. I've looked at all the things. There's very few things that I like. Most things have issues. That's why predominantly they're in auctions. And I think most dealers would agree with me on that. I looked at a whole lot of viola bows, and I whittled it down after looking at about 200 bows to 4 bows that I liked. I mentioned this to a colleague yesterday, and he explained to me that 2 of them had cracks. So, and one of them had another issue. And so I'm not bidding on anything. So I'm happy just to buy off other dealers and musicians and things like that. So for people who think they're getting a bargain at the auctions, well, I didn't see any. Anyway, let's talk about what I've got. We've got a variety of instruments. Let's start with the lone wolf on the table, the viola. I've got a very interesting viola, so I need to have a sip. This is a viola by David Rattray, and he's a maker who has a lot of appeal and love. I have a lot of love for him on many levels, purely that when I arrived in 1992 to the Royal Academy of Music, David was the luthier in residence, and he'd just taken over running the Royal Academy's incredible collection and was getting to grips with what was there and what wasn't there. And I sort of made myself known when I arrived, studying postgrad viola. Another quick side note, in the first week I was there, I sold a beautiful ramble to Eric Grunberg, professor of violin, while I was there. So it was sort of written in the stars. Anyway, David became a friend of mine, and I would pop into his workshop all the time. And interesting enough, when I left the academy and I became a musician, and then when I stopped playing, because I was dealing part-time for 10 years, when I stopped playing full-time in 2004, it was only a matter of a couple of years later that his wife, Lisa, became my PA, and she worked with me for 5 or 6 years before they moved back to Scotland. Anyway, I digress slightly. What I'm talking about is the David Rattray viola I have here. It's a Gasparo de Salo copy, made in, I think it was 97, I can't actually remember because it's very tricky to, 1996. But this was made for my viola teacher, Professor Ian Jewell, violist of the Gabrielli String Quartet, and someone that really advanced my playing to a higher level. And you're not going to realize that when I play in a few minutes, but I'll play a few notes on it. But yeah, this is a really nice Gaspar copy made by David, and Ian played on that since 1996. He's now, I think, approaching 80, or he might be just 80. Arthritis is starting to kick in, so he's sort of winding down the actual playing element to his career, and he's asked me to sell his viola. So I'm selling this viola on consignment, and let's have a couple of notes, eh? Idea. Nice viola, very nice nutty sound, I would describe it. I think it's about 41 something centimeters. It's not too big, looks big, but it's not so big, but a really nice viola. I'd certainly recommend it. We've also got another 2 Rattray violas in at the moment, one that I own myself, and another very small Guadagnini model, which is very interesting. It's just under 16 inch, but sounds fantastic. Okay, so that's the viola that I got. Let's jump straight into the violins, might as well. Right, should we start from cheapest? Yeah, let's go up the scale, I think that's right. So I have a Joseph Hell of Lille, the great maker in France. This is quite an early example, 1874. They're not usually this dark. This is sort of a Strand model. This is sort of a typical, I hate to say French varnish in the sense it's a dark, very dark ruby red. But Hell, later on you'll see his Stradivari copies, Guarneri copies, much lighter in colour generally. Beautifully made. His workmanship was absolutely phenomenal, and he was a very prolific maker, and these are undervalued. I'm selling this one for £30,000. They should be more. I'll give that a quick play. One of the first violins I actually bought as a violin dealer when I was full-time was a Joseph Hell violin. That was about 2003, and I bought that. Very nice violin. All right, here we go. Here's this one. Oh, better find a bow with rosin. There we go, Joseph Hell, a maker I'd recommend if your budget is 40 and under. He's a great maker to go for. Right, next one, Simonazzi. So he's an Italian violin maker who made this violin in sort of circa 1930, I think. He was a pupil of the great Scarab. If I remember correctly, was it Scarabotto? Oh no, I can't remember. Martin, as my assistant, look up Simonazzi, would you? Find out. I can't remember Scarabotto or just grab one of the books up there, the grey book. Simonazzi. This is Martin. Just the Bronx. That, yeah, Simonazzi. I'll keep talking. So this is he made a lot of copies. So this is interesting. I've labelled Joseph Marconcini. Well, it's not, okay? It's Simonazzi, made in 1920. Very nice violin. And the interesting thing about the Marconcini element I'm talking about is I've got an original, so which looks nothing like this. But it's a generic sort of, tried to make it look old, but it's a nice violin. I'll have a quick play. There we go, confirmed, Scarab. One of the few pupils. Scarab didn't really have many. They had Gaetano Gadda, and Simonazzi. So yeah, nice violin. Right, next violin, up the rank, we have a very rare violin, Paolo Irva of Milan. This violin was made in 1901, and if you look at the back, this could be mistaken for a Bizziac, Leandro Bizziac, because Paolo Irva made some violins for Bizziac. And this, I just saw this violin and just fell in love, quite frankly. I've not seen any of his before, and this has got an original label, and it's just an absolutely beautiful looking violin. So if you look on my website, I know we took photos yesterday, so that should be popping up very soon, if not already. But absolutely, it's a stunning violin. It's in the mold of Leandro Bizziac, but what I like about it is that Bizziac did, to a point, have a workshop mentality. So like someone like Erba was making, and other makers made for him, Garamberti, Ornati, Sturchis, the list goes on. I think, yeah, not the Antoniozzi's. Anyway, this one is, sorry, sit. I never play. Again, we haven't really set up this is just how it came to me. These instruments are similar. We might do our own setups, but we'll see. Nice violin. Real solo sound, I think. If you're wondering where I got it, a retired violinist in London, actually an Australian, So it's quite nice as a fellow Australian to buy a violin off someone as they're retiring. And she's used it in one of the London orchestras for 20 odd years. And hopefully someone else will get this one day to enjoy. Right, and the final violin I'm showing is Giuseppe Marconcini, Ferrara 1818, if I remember correctly. Yes, 1818. He was taught by his father, Luigi Marconcini. Not much written about Marconcini, really, and you don't really see Giuseppe Marconcini that often. I know the Chi Mai Foundation in Taiwan, they have the twin of this, and I'm very lucky with this violin because it's crack free, mint. So we're talking 205 years old and not a crack. So it's what an investment. And when you see the price of some of the modern Italian violins, I think I've mentioned in the past, Poggi, that are hitting 200,000 to 250,000 euros. This is in that range, but hey, you get a violin that's 200 years old rather than a violin that's 50, with a bit of history. Right, I'll have a quick play. There we go. I need to probably learn a piece, don't I, on the violin. And I was just using my fourth finger the first time in about 20 years then. Right, so that's the violins I've got. I have picked up a few other things as well, but I just thought I'd show this as a smattering. Bows, quickly. So what I thought I would show is I've picked up, we'll talk about Fetique. Actually, let's talk about the one viola, well, there's two violas. One viola bow that's different. So I have a Tubbs viola bow. James Tubbs, one of the great English makers, the English toot, you'd almost say, wouldn't you? This is a bow made sort of circa 1890, typical in all aspects of his work, and typically plays fantastically. This is a beautiful bow. You know, at the price point where this bow is, you're only just over halfway to getting a Rattray, and I'll tell you what I would prefer to be playing on, a Tubbs. They make a great sound. Very much like a 19th century French bow. There's something very special about a Tubbs viola bow. Okay, particularly they seem to always work. So there's that bow that's just in. Let's jump straight onto another viola bow. Fetique, Victor Fetique, is also a maker that I really enjoy. He did have a large workshop, and a lot of people worked in his workshop. Andre Richaume, I think his nephew was his nephew, worked there. Jules Fetique did some. There's a few other makers. There's a couple of makers you don't want because there are a couple of German makers, and I'm sorry, we are in a racist business and German bows are cheaper. That's just the way it is. But anyway, this is a bow made by Victor Fetique circa 1920, and it's incredibly highly flamed wood. So if you can get it to my website, it's very hard to actually transmit the flames of a bow onto a flat photo, but it's a great bow. So there's that. There's two viola bows for you. 3 violin bows we're looking at here. There's sort of I'll show you the top of the range. So we have a Victor Fetique Expo. So every few years they would have an exposition around the world, and makers would sometimes put in their best work to be shown internationally. And this is a lovely bow made in 1924 for the London Expo by Fetique. So it's stamped on the reverse side, Expo 1924. And if you look it up, you can work out where he made it. So that's a bow that I've just got in with original lapping. So that's just there. And I think probably an original thumb. It's a beautiful bow. And I couldn't say no when I had to buy this bow, although my bank balance took a hit. Right, then we hit another Victor Fetique. So this is just where are we? Yeah. So this is just a straight normal Victor Fetique, your standard 1910, 1920. They really work. And at the price point of a Fetique these days, you're still saving yourself, well, it's half the price of a Rattray. So Rattray now hitting 35, 40,000 euros. Fetique is half that, approximately, you know. But they're going to go up, well, supply and demand, of course. But that's a beautiful violin bow in fantastic condition. The last thing I'm showing is the buyer beware element of this. it's a bow made by Charles Bazin in 1960, and it's stamped Victor Fetique. Okay, it looks real in terms of the stamp, and to the untrained eye, people would know. I've had this bow actually for 15 years in my cupboard, and it's just been sitting there. I thought, oh, I've got to work out who made it, because I knew it was obvious to me that it wasn't Fetique, and I thought maybe a Morisot, maybe a Bazin, and so I was quite surprised that it was Charles Bazin, who's the last of the Bazin family, and made in 1960-65. So it's not that old, and yet he was trying. Well, someone asked him to make a bow with a Fetique stamp, and when it was given to me, the owner thought it was Fetique, and I had to say it's not, because I could certainly tell that much. Anyway, that's my ramble for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll do one of these every month, and they're all going onto my YouTube account, so you can follow a link somewhere on my website, look them up on YouTube and go through each month. But anyway, have fun. Goodbye from me.